Hi everyone. Um, Welcome back to my channel. This is Bill Illy. That's me. And the person across from me is Courtney Coulson. She's a female to male to female detransitioner. And she has a YouTube channel where she, as she often says during the intro, like something like, and we're here to find out what's wrong with me.
Yeah, what the hell is wrong with it? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Um, and yeah, Courtney made an autoandrophilia video a few months back, and I liked it. I'm glad to see people talking about this subject more because it's I'm concerned that there's a lot of people that are transitioning female to male transition who have that as part of the motivations but don't realize what's happening to them, and I worry that they might like regret their decisions.
Hmm. Yeah, and that video has been quite popular. There's a lot of discussion on that one because I think it is a very new topic for most people. And then there were also a bunch of women saying, "Oh, I didn't realize this was a thing. I can very much relate to it." And then you found a few women with this experience as well. Although I've noticed the guests you've had on so far, most of them present or speak otherwise in quite a feminine way. They're heterosexual. They have a bit of a fujoshi background, so they're into the anime and the manga with male on male relationships that are not very accurate to gay male relationships. And I come from a maybe totally different experience. At least I feel it is. That yeah, I'm a butch lesbian, basically. Let's just get right down to it. Maybe soft butch. Maybe I'm not the most butch woman in the world, but yeah, not attracted to men at all. And so that doesn't factor into my autoandrophilia, where I think for these other women, it's more, well, they're attracted to men. It's that whole thing. Do I want to be him or do I want to do him? It's kind of like that.
Yeah.
Whereas for me, it's more, well, I guess for a lot of homosexuals, gay or lesbian, there's this desire to have that heterosexual dynamic where it would be so much easier. Women would look at me the way they look at men. I wouldn't have the struggles I have now because yeah, women don't really look at you. If you're a woman, most women are straight and they're not going to look at you the way you wish they would. They're not going to notice you in that way, and you can kind of flirt and they just think you're being nice. So yeah, I think for me, being a lesbian is the main motivator or contributor to my autoandrophilia.
Yeah. Have you ever been attracted to men at any point, or just never?
No, and I always thought I was asexual growing up. I wasn't attracted to anyone at all, and that it occurred much later in life. Actually, after I detransitioned, suddenly I had this boost to my hormones or whatever, and I was feeling all sorts of things, including sexual attraction, and I was always fixated on women. And when I was having that sort of roid rage, when I was taking testosterone and I would have these violent sexual fantasies, it was always directed towards women. Men just didn't factor into it at all. I've always seen men as kind of as competition, and I tend to not like the way they treat me. Men, they mean well, but I think a lot of them have this tendency to talk to women as if they're this other creature. They're a unicorn, or approach carefully, and they put us on a pedestal, or they can be condescending, which kind of gives you that gender dysphoria where you go, I'm just a regular person. Why are you talking to me like I'm a child? Um, and so, yeah, it is that coveting what they have. I've always very much been jealous of what men have from a child. That I was a star athlete. I was the tallest in my class, my full 5'3" height at a very young age. And then I stopped growing, everyone kept growing, and the boys became men, and they got stronger and stronger, and now I realize I'm a bodybuilder now, and I just realized no matter how hard I try, no matter how well I achieve in women's divisions, that's about a third of what men accomplish. I look at there's wiki pages of all the top female records and all top male records in
Yeah, it's
anything in
humbling,
the
right?
Olympics. It is oh okay, yeah, no, I'm just trapped in this very small, weak, pathetic body, and I will never compare.
Yeah, it's with the sports thing, especially because it's comparing people that are at the extreme right end of the distribution. It really
Mm.
shows you that, like, you know, there's so many high school males, for instance, that run faster than any woman ever has.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, and that's what you're seeing with, like, that, liar. I don't know if it's Leah, but I'm gonna say it's liar, Thomas. He if you look at him compared to the women, he's just a giant, massive shoulders, long limbs, and so these women might be very good against other women, but we can never a woman could never be the best or the strongest, but she could be the best amongst her own gender. Oh, okay. So I will always have a chip on my shoulder like that. Um, and yeah, it goes way back to 10 or 11, but I guess just prior to puberty. So if this autoheterosexuality, autoandrophilia, it's not strict. And you make this clear in the book, and I want to just reemphasize that it's not strictly a sexual thing. There is sexual elements to it, but it's this all-encompassing experience of how you view your own gender, your own body, the way you wish you could interact with the world, and how it would interact with you.
yeah, and that's something that I felt was really important to get across to people because so many people talk about it as just a matter of like getting off, but
Mm,
this psychology, it goes so much deeper and just has so much power to completely revolutionize how you see yourself and how you live your life. It has great power to sculpt your life towards the cross gender purpose, and
mm.
it's I think it's important for people to know that so they know this sort of like power they're trifling with, that's within them.
Yeah, and nearly 2 years ago exactly, I was hit by a car, and that's why I've got the eye patch. I got intermittent ptosis, so the muscles are very relaxed there, so tension's not as strong as it used to be. So it's kind of a conscious effort to keep my eye open. So when I'm on stage or I'm in front of a camera, just slide the eye patch on. You can't tell. And also, it looks like Big Boss from Metal Gear, who's sort of my auto andro fixation these days.
Yeah, I was gonna say like you like looking like Big Boss.
Yeah, yeah, and I got the mullet going on. They keep cutting it too short. I don't think they understand. Like, I want to look like a big boss. I want to look like a man. Give me the mullet. Just don't question me. Um, but yeah, so after I was hit by the car, I was made to feel very weak and degraded in the hospital. They left me lying in my own excrement. They give you the laxatives because they've given me this medication that can cause ileus, immobilizes the gut. So yeah, they give me the laxatives, and then they don't give me a diaper or a bedpan. No, I'm just lying in my own excrement. I'm calling out for help, with pressing the button. They say, "Oh, you can't press that forever." Well, you're making me. Yeah, so I could go on, but yeah, a lot of degrading, horrible things happen in hospital. Then my mother took me home, and the less said about her, the better. But a lot of degrading, embarrassing, infuriating things happened with her, and that's when my gender dysphoria really came back because I detransitioned maybe a couple years before that, and I look back at the photos now, and I'm trying so hard to be feminine. I'm pushing that male side down as far down as I can, just saying, "Oh, the trans thing was a mistake. It was just a,
Oh, like
I was having a."
in the immediate aftermath of your detransition, you're trying.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
many detrans girls do that where they just, "I'm super girly, got full face of makeup, all the hair and the nails and the heels and the bright colors." No, it really wasn't for me, but I noticed how easily I can push myself back into a costume, and I am a cosplayer, so, I think there's a part of me that I can play a role. It's not that, like people with what are they, that borderline, where they have this very fragile sense of identity, so they're very easily able to just flip it to a new thing. I can kind of relate to that because I've had to just sort of put on a costume to survive in like social circles within my family, putting on that feminine costume. So when I detransitioned, I guess I just realized, my wasn't a realization, but my assumption was that, oh yeah, I guess the male thing was just another costume. It was a mistake. I'm an idiot. I was right the first time. I'll just go back to being girly. Yeah, no. After my accident, I realized, oh no, I hate this. I hate all of this, and I threw all of that out. And yeah, I think it was having that near-death experience and realizing how much I hate feeling powerless. So I've kind of equated strength with masculinity. So I do realize there is a bit of a problem there, maybe, arguably.
No, it's a
And
fair
that,
association,
mm,
I think.
yeah, I mean, biologically, it's undeniable, as we've said. But after that accident, all I had on my laptop to play was Metal Gear Solid 5: The Phantom Pain. Very much connected with it, and I mean, admittedly, and there are the autoandrophiles you've had on kind of mention this too, that we don't relate to female characters in the media. We're very rarely depicted with the same intensity and pathos and depth that the men do. And especially in that game, there is one female character. Her name is Quiet, so they don't even give her a voice. She's not allowed to just talk. And she walks around in her underwear. She's just there as a sex symbol. So you're not really supposed to see her as a human being. Whereas the men get this complexity that I could relate to, and they explore the pain of being in a kind of accident like my own. But yeah, no, Big Boss, I really do relate to, even though apparently he's the villain. I don't know. I'm doing a podcast where I play it in chronological order, so I don't know where those stories are gonna go. I don't know about Solid Snake yet, but yeah, no, he was just this extremely competent, badass male character. I wish I was you. I really wish I was you. And video games give you that outlet. And I've played a little experiment with this. So in Baldur's Gate, you can play as whatever you want. So I played as a very butch barbarian female character. Okay, that helped actually. I didn't feel as much dysphoria. I'm this, 6'2" female character. Okay, I'm connecting with her. All right. And then recently I started playing Resident Evil, playing as Jill. And again, I'm going, okay, it does help. If I'm playing as a female character, I can kind of retrain my brain to go, okay, I can play as a badass female character. But still, deep down, there is that autoandrophilia. I don't know how else to explain it.
Right, just but basically the the ideal thing would be to be
Yeah.
like a big badass man.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, I mean, yeah, I mean, I think that the eye patch, like, it works with your look, in
Thank
my
you.
opinion. Yeah. Yeah,
I think my
it's
outfit's
pretty cool.
unintentionally a bit Marty McFly right now. I got the puffer vest, I got the denim.
Yeah, yeah, your fashion's on point.
Thank you.
Um,
I am an accidental fashion icon. I don't know why people say, "Oh, you got this real 1940s look." I'm going, I don't know. I just rolled out of bed. I just, if you say so.
um, I was like an hour or so ago, I was looking at some of your old videos to be like, think of some things to talk to you about, and I
Mm,
reminded me of that at one point, um, you had sort of incorporated like an android male into your self identity,
mm, yeah,
and I think it's in your video that's called like "Am I Otherkin?"
yeah,
And um, how did that start happening?
yeah. I don't know what it was. This. mechanical obsession. It's maybe I was just hanging out with the transhumanist crowd, and that wasn't helping. But yeah, I came to resent my human body so much, and I'm wondering if it's getting to that point where transitioning didn't help, and I'm still trapped in this small female body that still looks feminine, that's not that much stronger. And I guess that was this desperate dream to escape entirely and ascend to a mechanical form, or this cyborg form, that I could finally be my true self, which is just absolute lunacy. And then yeah, that delusion kept growing and growing until well, yeah, Connor was this other person, somewhat inspired by Detroit Become Human, but then there was also had a huge obsession with David, the character played by Michael Fassbender in Prometheus. And yeah, I always have this specific man that I have this fixation on, that I want to be like him, and it's never sexual. It's never I fantasize about being with him. It's just I want to be him. Um, and yeah, so I guess, God, yeah, even in early childhood, I would look at certain male characters and want to be them. But I'm wondering again, does that just start off as this innocent thing of, well, I think one of your other guests, Ash Ketchum. Well, of course, because Ash is the main character of Pokemon. It's not Misty. If it was the Misty show, then maybe it would be the other way around. Maybe you'd have boys wishing they could be Misty as well. But no, I think we're kind of set up to feel that way, and yet not every woman is an autoandrophile. But if you are that way, you lean that way, the media does not help.
Right. And it seems like the media really sucks in a lot of autoandrophiles, particularly in the realm of fan fiction.
Mm.
I know that you have a video about that too, about
Yes.
the influence of fan fiction on like the female to male transition.
Mm. Yeah, it's unintentionally become a pipeline where this fantasy can just be so writ large and everywhere. You can immerse yourself in it, that there's these male on male relationships that it's funny to me, they seem like lesbian relationships. So you have, yeah, in there's a lot of Metal Gear ones, and I look at the way these women have written these men interacting with each other. I'm just going, they're just kind of butch lesbians. Let's be honest. um, oh god, there used to be, long time ago. There was these great fanfic lists written by gay men trying to educate women on how to write gay male relationships, but yeah, I don't know. It's that emotional vulnerability, or that those concerns about the value of one's appearance. I mean, gay men they can be quite vain, or they worry so much about their appearance, way more than heterosexual men do. Yes, but I don't know, there's just something about the way women write these characters that comes across as so inherently female, even though you're saying it's Snake or Kazuhiro. It's in name only. They're very feminine.
Right. Yeah, like the psychology underlying the things that they're focusing on in the stories as attractive and important are it's almost like female romance novels, but it's
Yes.
just you guys.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you've just swapped the pronouns, and that's about it. God, my camera is shit. It keeps changing the brightness. I don't understand. Okay.
No worries. Yeah. Did after so you mentioned how during your detransition, at first you were trying to, like a lot of the other detransitioners, you try to be like return to full femininity and hyper feminine. But
Yeah.
how did you integrate your male and female selves over time?
It was this very distinct, separate identity thing going on, where you had Connor and Courtney, and I would have these dreams where they're two separate people. And with Connor, yeah, it used to be just a human man, and then it was this robot, which I've drawn at some point. And yeah, just trying to integrate those two. And then I went through this mechanophilia stage, which was where, I mean, hormones, hell of a drug, guys. They're really take you down some weird paths. So when I first developed a sex drive, it was just a lesbian, but then I was seeing myself as a robot, and then I was integrating my two identities, and then it became this mechanophilia, where it was just this idolization of the purity of the machine, and it was almost, I guess, trying to get away from the confusing biological stuff, and at the same time integrating that Connor identity. Now I can see in hindsight what was going on. And now, yeah, I hate all that transhumanist stuff. I don't like technology, to be honest. I like just getting out of it and spending time in nature and all that. And yeah, I have thought about, but I would try anything once. I'm open to exploring my sexuality. So it's not like I'm repulsed by the idea of being with a man, but yeah, most men are not attractive to me. But also, the only way I would be with a man is if I'm on top, if I'm pegging. That's one of my on my bucket list. I want to
Right.
peg a
I
man.
figured. Yeah.
Very much want to do that. I really. And that scares off a lot of men, because I've been trying. I would talk to couples, male and female couples, and they would be all gung ho until I said, "Okay, well, if you want to get into the back door, I need to get into the back door too. You got to, law of equal exchange here." And I don't know about. Oh, okay. So, not about equality here, I see.
Right. Yeah. Um. Did, yeah, forgot what I was gonna say.
That's very. I can derail the conversation very
That
easily.
was that was just a funny clip about equality. Yeah. Um. Yeah. Do you think it, like, if I were to think about a way to find a guy that'd be into that, it seems like sort of the obvious thing would be to look for some sort of like feminine guy, like maybe some autogynephile or something.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah. The
because
androgynous ones, yeah, so super masculine men, even they're the ones I want to be. I am not. I have
right.
no feelings of that variety with Big Boss. I just kind of, when I'm playing the game, I just go, hmm, that'd be nice, wouldn't it, to be like that? Yeah, but it never goes that way. Whereas, yeah, the more androgynous men, I do kind of think about it, and yeah, I guess autoheterosexuality seems to have this intrinsic overlap with this BDSM kind of thing, or just this dom sub dynamic. It seems to always, every autoheterosexual I've ever heard, that factors in to a degree. There is something about this power exchange that is so inherent to it. Um, and yeah, I am someone who has often felt powerless in my life, so I guess that makes sense, even though I'm not generally into the S&M thing.
Right. I mean, I guess I sort of think of that sort of power exchange you're mentioning as just something related to gender, where like
Mm,
males are historically the stronger one that has power, and females tend to be weaker and the ones
mm.
that do not have the power.
Yeah, and well, I've gotten close to some men like that, and is that background noise? Oh, that's your background noise. Okay. Um,
Oh, my background
yeah,
noise is coming through.
yeah. I was
All
wondering
right.
for something. But yeah, so yeah, I mean, I've gotten close to men where I kind of have that dynamic where I'm the one wearing the pants. I am very much the big boss. But there is a certain point where they kind of go, yeah, I don't like this, or they don't want to be bossed around. It's just, yeah, it's very rare for a guy who's into that. I'm trying to find them. Where are they?
Right. Well, you know, maybe you'll have luck.
Mm,
The something I just thought of. You were going around Australia last week,
hmm
traveling. I think with Courtney Coulson, not Courtney Coulson,
I'm Courtney
Chloe.
Coulson. I know it gets confusing. Chloe Cole, Courtney Coulson.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
Yeah. What was that like?
I was definitely the sort of, what do you call it? The substitute, their backup. Chloe was the lead. She was getting all the attention. I'm just sort of sitting there in the corner, and I get cut out of the photos. They misspell my name. Well, one day get more subscribers. It'll be fine. But no, it was a great experience. Oh, understudy. That was the word I'm looking for. Um, But yeah, that the politicians are realizing that there's something wrong here, and that this this whole trans movement came out of nowhere very quickly. It's not medically substantiated, and that the clinics that are doing these things are very reluctant to hand over any kind of studies or medical records or anything, so that we can. There was a CAS review. That's the one we kept talking about during this tour. There was recently a CAS review of how ineffective it all, especially transitioning children. Um, but yeah, when I was talking about, so my perspective, Chloe's just up there saying it was all a mistake. It was all horrible. She has no desire to be masculine at all. There's still no interest there. She's a bit of a tomboy, but not butch. There's nothing inherently masculine, I would say. Um, but yeah, no, I would get on stage and I would say, well, I am one of those people who very much wanted to be a man, still want to be a man, but it didn't work. And it never would. And I don't know why I was convinced. I don't know how my doctors convinced me that that was possible. And so, yeah, I did talk about autoandrophilia. I would say there's about 4 major reasons why people transition. You're either gay, autoheterosexual, autistic, or it's a social psychosis, mass hysteria, that kind of thing. And I kind of tick all of those boxes to a degree. My mum kind of shopped around until she could find someone who would diagnose me with autism. So now I wonder if I even had it, but I definitely had something going on as a teenager. And yeah, had those very rigid gender ideas enforced on me by my mother. So I think she's a big contributor there. Lots of mummy issues. But yeah, no one really talked too much. They didn't want to get too in depth about my auto heterosexuality. They primarily just sort of focus on how is this affecting children and how we shouldn't be transitioning kids. So yeah, they kind of just left that to the side.
Yeah, that's sort of the experience I had when going to the Gen Spec conference. That the they're focusing very much on like the political aspects and the not medicalizing kids,
Mm,
but they don't talk very much about the known etiologies of
yeah,
transgenderism, and it kind of worries me because if you are, I think the organizations that are concerned about this, if they actually want to help the people that are experiencing gender distress, I think that clearly explaining to the people who are experiencing it where it comes from, and in a non-stigmatizing way that doesn't make them feel weird or bad, but just is like, hey, this could be what's going on. I
yeah, that would have made a huge
Yeah.
difference. That no one really, yeah. If there was just here's the pamphlet, here's all the possible reasons, that would have been nice. But no, there was no pamphlet. It was just, oh, if you have decided you're a man, you must actually be a man, and we have to do everything to transition you as immediately as possible. Um, yeah, I mean, at that time, I was still identifying as asexual. I didn't have any urges. Even when I had priapism, I had to masturbate to relieve that pain, but that was sort of just out of medical requirement. There was no enjoyment. I really did not discover my own sexuality until after detransitioning.
Okay, so
And
you had priapism like while on testosterone?
yeah,
Okay, that
and
makes sense. I would have been
yeah,
impressed if that happened before being on testosterone.
yeah. But then I changed my relationship to my genitals, and yeah, I wasn't so some trans men very much want to get the phalloplasty, they want to do all of that, and I always thought that's ridiculous, it doesn't work, so just keep the bits you have. Buck Angel's always talking about, he's the man with the pussy, and he's very proud of it. um, Whereas, yeah, so me, it just didn't matter because I thought, well, I'm asexual, I'm never gonna have a partner, I have no interest whatsoever. Whereas afterwards, yeah, seeing my own genitals, but fantasizing as being more phallic and being able to do those things, or it'd be nice if it was big. And I know some women have clitoral growth that's big enough that they can penetrate and just go, oh man, that would be great. Like, I have those sorts of fantasies, which I didn't have when I was a trans man. So yeah, now I don't have much success dating because I think having once been trans, but also the auto heterosexuality makes it very difficult to relate. I mean, yeah, well, every lesbian I've talked to is just very passive, and they bore the hell out of me. So I want someone who's got a little bit more personality. But yeah, men are always going to assume that very masculine role where they're condescending. It's like, ugh,
Yeah.
no, thank you, bye. Um, and I always want to pay for my meals. They won't let me do it. Fuck.
Yeah. Maybe you could
God
find
damn it.
another autoandrophile, but one that's more femmy.
Yeah, I'd be into that. Yeah, that could be the perfect dynamic because I mean, I do like butch women, and they are so rare these days because most of them, especially the younger ones, get wound up in the bloody non-binary trans thing. So we don't fly in the same circles anymore.
Right. Yeah. Because the ones that you'd be attracted to are caught like they believe some strange ideology and they would probably think you're terrible for not believing it.
Yeah, it was like, yeah, if someone is part of a religion or they're trans or they're vegan, these ideologies are very intense, and you're with them or against them. So I respectfully disagree. There's no middle ground there.
Yeah. Um. Are you since detransitioning? Are you happy with any of the physical changes that happen, such as like, do you prefer having a deep voice now compared to
Mm.
before?
Yeah, and this is a part of my detransition that it's fascinating to see how the public have received that information. And I was getting up on stage and talking to Parliament and saying, I'm happy with some of the changes. I will be honest that the deeper voice, I'm about 15 kilos heavier than I was. I've got a little more muscle mass. I had facial hair, now it's just the random ones that stick out. But I was happy with all of that. And so testosterone did dampen down that dysphoria. It pushed me somewhere into the middle where I was so completely feminine before. I was extremely feminine, this very little princess, little Barbie doll, and I hated that. So now I'm seeing, and especially in the gym, I'm looking in the mirror at the gym and looking at the women, especially with this. Oh my god, these days I don't know if they have this trend everywhere, but they got the tights, the leggings, but they got like a G-string, like a wedgie up their bum, and I'm just
Yeah.
looks so dumb. And I mean, they've got the push-up bra and the stupid tights and all of that, and then there's me just wearing some gym shorts and a t-shirt and just wearing whatever and going, oh, okay, yeah, no, I do feel androgynous. I mean, I'm looking at the men going, well, I'm not quite on their level, but at least it's nice to go, oh, yeah, I'm not the girly girl anymore, but I'm not a manly man. But hey, I'm somewhere in the middle, and that makes me more comfortable. It's a more it's truer to myself, I guess.
Right. Because then you can have kind of accept both of your sides. Like
Mm,
you have some of the male stuff that you wanted, and then you don't have to be too feminine. And I
mm.
imagine the voice has a huge impact socially, right?
Yeah. Yeah, excuse me.
Probably the eye patch with the voice too, to be honest.
Yeah. Trying to think of some big boss quotes right now, but yes, none of them are coming to my head. um, but yeah, so I can do a somewhat decent David Hayter impression. So that's good. I'm doing a Metal Gear podcast is useful. And yeah, I mean, on the phone, always. Very rarely does someone call me ma'am. On the phone, it's always sir. And I mean, I'm making an effort to raise my voice up. So that's good. And I'm surprised that sometimes I was checking into a hotel last week, and this guy, when you could see me, I'm small. I'm wearing this white beret. I think I had the eye patch on though, but um, yeah, not particularly masculine or feminine, but yeah, he was calling me sir the entire time. And I'm just going, is he gonna click that I'm okay? No, just assumed I was man. Okay, interesting. So I'm kind of a Rorschach test of gender at this point.
Yeah, that seems to be a common experience among female to male to female detransitioners,
Mm,
because those permanent effects, especially on the voice, and then
mm,
also changing some of the facial structure and
mm.
like moving the hairline a bit, it seems to
Yes. Yeah.
yeah lead to a lot of androgyny and people getting confused about what sex you are.
Mm. And initially, that was very upsetting because when you first detransition, you go, "Oh my god, what have I done? I've made this huge mistake. I will never look like a woman ever again." And then a few years pass, and you go, "Good, actually, I don't want to look like a girly girl. That was kind of the whole point. I should have been changed by this journey. I should have gotten some changes of the permanent variety." So yeah, I do very much consider myself one of the lucky ones where you do have a lot of women who they've lost all their hair and they're just so ashamed and embarrassed and they have to live with that now. And there's that, oh, he had me on his show and now I'm public enemy number one. Maritza Cummings is her actual name. So Mark Cummings. He keeps going back and forth. He transitions, he detransitions. I think the channel's called Transition Radio.
I
And
haven't
we,
heard of
I
this
was
person.
okay, and so yeah, it's confusing. So she had me on when she was going through a detrans phase, and so we're all talking about our regrets transitioning and yada yada. And we got along really well. Anyway, she goes back to being Mark, and then suddenly she's writing all these nasty articles about how confused I am. It's okay. So yeah, I feel sorry for people like that who they just keep going through the transition cycle because they detransition and go, well, this isn't authentic. I don't feel comfortable. I'm miserable. Okay, transition again. Oh no, this doesn't feel authentic. I'm miserable. I'm comfortable. Detransition. Whereas I found a nice equilibrium where I just don't give any fucks about what anyone thinks about me anymore. A, but B, yeah, the voice I'm hearing out of my body is closer to what I have always heard. The muscles, even though I want more, I always want more. I'm getting closer. Or when, again, looking in the gym mirror and going, "Oh, yeah, my upper body's a lot bigger than all the other girls." Okay.
Right. It's like even if you can't uh, be a man, basically being more manly than all the girls still feels good.
Yes. Yeah. If I can't be a manly man, at least I can be a manly girl.
Right. Yeah. And yeah, that's something with the permanent changes with testosterone that I kind of wonder with it. I feel like there's probably a decent chunk of the autoandrophiles transitioning where if they're not on it too long and they get to keep all their hair on their head and stuff, that they won't actually regret it too much in the end.
Yeah, I think their hair loss is such a huge thing where they just feel, "Oh god, there is no going back," or you'd have to wear a wig for the rest of your life, and yeah, that creates that dysphoria where you don't have that flexibility to move between genders, whereas I can, especially when my hair is curly, it just sort of looks like a kind of a 1940s Marilyn Monroe kinda cut, but if I straighten, it's a bit more of a mullet, so I have that flexibility. I can wear the makeup or not, and yeah, I'm very lucky that I can just go either way. Although I still don't. Other people see me as androgynous. I often don't. I just still see myself as quite feminine. So is that just insecurity or just a matter of perspective? I don't know.
Yeah, I, it's hard to know. Um,
Oh, also, when I
yeah.
cosplay as Big Boss, I get a lot of interesting messages from men. I seem to attract a certain kind of man, and I know what is that saying about them that I'm dressed as the a very butch male character, and they're into that. I don't know. I should start an OnlyFans. I don't know.
Right. I mean, I would just assume that they're AGPs, but
Mm.
um,
Yeah, yeah, because there is. I get that vibe where they're kind of, oh, yeah, they want me to dominate them, and okay.
right. Yeah, like it could be like a form of meta attraction where, the seeing like a masculine woman, like it's
Mm.
almost like the sort of it helps them feel feminine in comparison.
Yeah. Yeah, and I've noticed my attraction to someone, it's a shame. We're shallow, we're cosmetic as a species, but yeah. So I was watching The Hunger, great Tony Scott film about vampires, and Susan Sarandon's in it. And I mean, Susan Sarandon's pretty cute, but I've never really noticed her because she's always very feminine. But in this movie, she's got the cropped hair. She's a bit more butch and androgynous, and going, Susan Sarandon. Never thought about it. So yeah, it's very much about how you present yourself, and I think that's why I was having so many issues with my own sexuality for so long. Is that, well, before transitioning, I was very feminine and I didn't feel sexy. My mother obviously wanted kind of horrored me up and horrored me out to trying to get me a man. She's very old fashioned. She's always trying to push me towards certain boys. Oh, what about him? Oh, he's good. He'd be a good boyfriend. And I never felt sexy, and no wonder I felt asexual, because it's just, I didn't feel connected with my body or my appearance. And then I would feel kind of sexy as Connor, and then some girls were into that, and so as Connor, I would feel kind of sexy, but still not in touch with my sexuality and all of that. There was still, I don't know, it took me a long time to learn how to orgasm and all of that. So I think there was just a lot of hang-ups there that I had to just slowly work through. Thankfully by myself. I didn't have to, I found a partner and then I went, oh, I'm really unprepared for this. I don't know my own body. So I had that opportunity. And now honestly feeling sexier than ever, that now I've kind of hit this equilibrium of, so I let my hair grow out really long and curly, and I just hated it. Cut it into the big boss mullet, and suddenly I went, oh, I am complete. This is my true self.
Yeah, I'm back.
I'm back, baby.
Yeah.
And it's just a matter of strangely, emulating someone else allowed me to find my true self in a weird way. That, well, I guess, especially as children, we're looking at role models, we're looking at templates as to how to be, which I think is why it's so insidious to make this trans thing so permanent for children that they're just exploring. And so I used to do that a lot. I ran into some of my old university mates, and they were saying, oh yeah, Courtney would wear a different outfit every single day. It's like, yeah, because I was trying to figure myself out and trying to figure out what did I really want to be and how did I really like to present myself, and none of it ever felt good. And so slowly I've just kind of gone to this militant butch direction, and that's worked quite well. And then just dressing down, because I was always forced to dress up with my mum, and the hair, makeup, nails, all that. Just not giving so much of a shit anymore. And yet people really like what I wear. I get a lot of compliments now, even though I'm just kind of throwing on whatever. So it's this, it's authenticity, I suppose. Is that what they're reacting to? Maybe that I'm just wearing what's comfortable and enjoyable for me, without it trying to be a character or projecting something else.
I mean, they might also be picking up on the fact that you're more comfortable.
Yeah. Confidence is sexy, as they say.
Yeah, I mean, you do have the bad boy look down, and especially like if you've been hitting the gym, like, I think for females with autoandrophilia, that more of them should be gym maxing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, God, I talk about masturbation so often these days, because it's such, when it comes to detransitioning, the questions come up a lot. But high sex drive when I detransitioned. So I was having to do it twice a day. But the fantasies I would have. So I would usually think about women. Yeah, I've never orgasmed thinking about a man, I will tell you that. But it's always about who I am in that circumstance. So I don't know, for other people, when they masturbate, they're just fantasizing about someone, and they're just themselves in that scenario. Whereas for myself, it's very much being bigger, more butch, being masculine, and then the other character in my fantasy reacting to that. Especially like the idea of the transformation. So maybe I am female, but I have become more masculine, or I think I've heard similar fantasies with the autogynophiles.
Yeah.
I've read so many books. I don't know where one of them, but yeah, I was talking about they have that sexual fantasy of that they've been forced to transform, so something like that.
Yeah.
Werewolf fantasies for me, I've always had this werewolf in, there was growing up in Underworld, the movie came out, you're either team werewolf, team vampire. I'm always team werewolf. But I think a part of that was, oh yeah, you transform to this very masculine, powerful thing, and so that's always resonated with me.
Yeah, and the vampires in these sorts of movies tend to be kind of androgynous and not as
Yeah.
buff. So the
Yeah.
choice is clear for you.
Yeah, clearly.
Yeah.
Werewolf, and then in most D&D campaigns, I will be a barbarian, obviously. Now when it comes to bodybuilding women, I mean, I'm into that. I like looking at them. I would like to be with them. But I really don't like, and I do want to compete one day. I've had so many freaking health issues, but we'll get there one day. There's no age limit. But yeah, you have to get on stage and wear the bikini, and that kind of kills it for me, Can I just wear shorts and no shirt? Can I do that?
Well, the men wear bikini. The men wear
It
thongs
has a
too.
little, yeah, but it's just I don't know, something about the having the top, the bikini top for
Oh,
me.
right. You have to wear a top. Yeah.
Yeah, I fixate on that and just get, but ew, I don't want to. Having the little panties is actually fine. It's for some reason whenever I have to wear covering on my upper half, that's where it ruins it for me. So in Australia, you would think we'd be a bit more relaxed about it, but no, you can't swim shirtless in most places, and I hate that. Um, and so I've never really found some kind of equilibrium of, well, what can I wear that's going to be comfortable for me? Well, I don't know. I have to go to Europe, I guess, because you can just go topless there. I don't know why everyone's afraid of titties.
I mean, it's legal in much of the US too, but
Yeah.
it's just strongly against the social norms, which is actually
Yeah.
what is more relevant.
There's an artist, I can't remember her name, but there's this artist I really love on Instagram. She draws these incredibly buff women and they're always shirtless. I'm just going, yes, more of this, please. I wasn't seeing this kind of art before I transitioned. And I think if I did, it kind of would have helped, or kind of would have helped me solidify where this feeling is coming from. I do, so I can always tell the sexuality and gender of an artist just by looking at the art. And so the way women draw men, the Fujoshi kind of art, where it's just like, oh, this is really, it's quite intense, but they're sexualizing these men in this way that I don't see in gay male art. There's that very famous homosexual artist from about the 70s or 80s, but a lot of policemen and all that in these leather outfits, and they're very curvaceous. And that was kind of, to me, that is the iconic homosexual art. Whereas when women draw these men in this homoerotic way, it is more like the anime style. Although there are manga, there is manga that is made by gay men for gay men, and I talked about this in my one of my the fanfiction videos. The way it's depicted is just not the same, and what gay men are attracted to in men is not what straight women are attracted to in men generally. There's a bit of overlap. And I see the same thing with lesbian art. Obviously, lesbian porn. Ew, no. It is very, it's true straight porn actresses trying
Yeah,
to be
and you
gay,
can
and it's
tell.
not. Yeah, it is
Yeah.
not. Yeah, men are generally not interested in those butch androgynous women. Sigourney Weaver's always been a very divisive actress. Some men are into it, other men, oh no, she looks like a man. Same with Hilary Swank. I'm into both of them, but yeah, men, it's kind of hit or miss. So we very rarely have that female, or especially butch female, depicted through the female gaze. We're very much lacking the kind of art and media that would have changed my perspective growing up. I felt very alone and disconnected from everyone else because it was either, well, men as depicted through the heterosexual gaze, or women as depicted through the heterosexual gaze.
Right. And you wish there was a sort of a gaze of the female
Yeah, the
gaze, so
female
to speak.
gay gaze. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was really liking that, and I think a lot of these gay kids who think they're trans now are probably having that same issue of, oh, well, I don't connect with this and I don't connect with that. And then a lot of us, because it is very much a man's world and we have this male default perspective on everything that you go, oh, well, if I don't connect with women, I guess I must be a man. A lot of these kids are just coming to that same conclusion.
Right. And yeah, it's so unfortunate that they're taught the gender ideology stuff in schools because it
Mm.
makes it so easy for them to misinterpret their feelings.
Yeah, it's ironic that we're going backwards. It's completely reductive. It's taking everyone back to gender stereotypes. I'm looking back at my notes if I had anything else. Um, yeah, the internalized misogyny and lack of female role models in the media, I think, is the main. Especially kids are seeing porn younger and younger now, and so these young girls are seeing it, and it's terrifying, and they realize, they assume, oh, well, I don't want to be choked or spit on or, degraded. Well, I want to be a man then, because men have it much better. So they just assume that's how real sex and real relationships are, and it's not.
Yeah, I think it is definitely an influence towards making young girls uncomfortable with the prospect of dating as heterosexuals.
Hmm. Um, and the other thing is, and I would say this on both sides for autogynephiles and androphiles, that we struggle to relate to our own gender. And so I think the AGPs tend to be more emotionally sensitive, and they struggle with, most men are not emotionally articulate. They don't communicate the same way, that seem to have the same feelings, and it frustrates them. And then on the other side, yeah, as an autoandrophile, AP, I guess I could say, yeah, it frustrates me that there's so many women who are just happy to live these little lives. They just small little lives, no ambition. They don't have the same intensity that I do. They just want to get married, settle down, and it's just, oh god, how can you live like this? Come on, there's a whole world out there to conquer.
Well, I mean, I don't think they're trying to like be masculine in that way though. Like the whole
Yeah,
adventuring and conquering the world thing is
yeah. No, it's just,
male brain.
well, I was in a share house recently with a couple of women who, yeah, all they wanted was to find a man, settle down, stay at home, look after the kids, and go, oh my fucking god, but there's so much more to life than this. Well, yeah, I am a very ambitious person. I've got a lot of projects. I want a lot of things. There's a lot of things I want to do when I get out into the world and explore it. Whereas, yeah, I guess, especially for women, they're not career oriented and they're not really pushed that way. Whereas men, it is very much, you got to be the breadwinner. You got to be the one to, make a name for yourself and accomplish. Whereas women don't have that same drive generally, because it's just not drilled into them.
Yeah. I mean, I tend to lean towards not like the social construction explanations or societal ones, but
Mm,
that there are just biological differences between males and females
mm.
on average that
Yeah, I'm wondering that.
yeah.
So, why you and why are we the way we are? Is it a biological thing, or was it just, the way I was raised was just like a typical girl? Why wasn't that comfortable for me? Why was I like that?
Well, I mean, if you did have autoandrophilia influencing your psychology from a young age and perhaps autism too,
Hmm.
like it would kind of make sense that you might feel alienated from having to be a girl and like not look forward to anything associated with that and then see all the stuff the boys get to do and want to do that.
Yep. Yeah. So my brothers got to be treated like human beings. They got to do whatever they wanted. My mother was very critical of me. I had to just be her little mini me. dress the way she wanted and all of that. So yeah, maybe it is all just mummy issues. It's just, I'm sorry, Freud, but you're right. It is mummy issues. And what was the other? Oh yeah, because I would look at female bodybuilders and athletes on TV and go, oh yeah, I want to do that. But then all the people around me on TV, they're watching the TV with me going, ew, muscular women, ew. Oh, so if I want to do that, I have to be a man. I think subconsciously, yeah, I just repeatedly have had this message drilled into me, and I don't know why. Why was I susceptible, whereas other girls don't end up like that? I guess we'll never know. Nature, nurture.
Yeah, it's hard to tease apart those things, but I tend to lean towards the genetic explanations for things, just because, like, the reason that we're, for example, human and not like an elephant or a cat
Yeah.
or a blade of grass is just because of genes.
Yeah.
So it's clearly the major factor in who we are.
Is it genes
But
or is it memes?
I think
Metal Gear.
no, I think genes are the most impactful, but that memes with they're copying faster now, so they're becoming more influential.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm surprised when I went to transition, they did the blood tests to see if I did have any sort of elevated levels of testosterone or whatever, androgens. No, I was totally normal. My menstrual cycle was bang on 28 days. I had no issues. So yeah, I was surprised about that. That my soul, my personality was very masculine, but biologically purely feminine. There was nothing wrong. As far I've never had a chromosome test, but based on evidence, I would say, yeah, I'm just general basic XX.
Right. Now synthetically enhanced.
Oh, sorry.
Yes. Guest appearance there. Okay.
No worries. Yeah. How did you first encounter the concept of autoandrophilia?
Yeah. When did it first? Because I think I always knew, even growing up. Well, I shouldn't have been watching it that young, but watching Silence of the Lambs, obviously Buffalo Bill, that was my first introduction to an autogynophile. And knowing about that, and it was sort of the trans community's dirty little secret. They always wanted to pretend it didn't happen, and oh, it's very rare, or those aren't really, they're not true trans. These people are not true trans. Like, no one's true trans, bruh. But yeah, I did not realize that women could be like that until I started reading those books. Oh god, yeah, it's like 3 major AGP books. I can't remember their names though. But yeah, in one of them, I was sorry. Is that banging noise too loud, or is that?
I don't hear anything.
Okay, good. Yeah, I think there was a teeny tiny little section on autoandrophilia in one of these books. I just went, oh, okay, so it really is a thing. So I kind of just assumed, okay, I feel like these AGPs, but gender flipped. Yeah, okay. And I just never really thought too deeply about it. And I would do some Google searches and barely anything showed up. And then when I started doing real in-depth research onto the AGPs, I went, oh, okay, so AAP is a thing. And it's just so rarely discussed. And because I guess it's not so much about cross-dressing, or even if it is about cross-dressing, women can just dress like men and crop their hair short and they're just butch, and that's socially acceptable. So it flies under the radar. And women's sexuality is generally understudied, underdiscussed. Women don't have sex drives or kinks. That's impossible. So yeah, I was really only putting this all together on my channel. What the hell is wrong with me? This vast mosaic of problems. I was only really putting the AAP thing into that, and maybe the past couple of years realizing, oh yeah, no, that is very much a factor that I just overlooked. And it's amazing how You are yourself. You're in your head all the time. You know yourself really well, right? No, you're not the expert on yourself. There could be big aspects of yourself just hidden beneath the surface that you just never considered.
Yeah, I was definitely surprised when I first learned about autogynephilia and that it describes me. I was so surprised that how did nobody tell me about this and how did I not know this?
Mm.
But
And doctors should know about it.
yeah, they definitely by now they should definitely know about autogynephilia given how solid the research is on that.
Mm.
It's going to be a while before they catch on to the autoandrophilia thing.
Yeah, and so I'm surprised that with you, well, well, some of your guests didn't want to be seen, but yeah, I'd be curious to know how they present, just generally speaking. But yeah, some of them had long hair and had a husband that was able to keep that side of themselves totally buried. Um, Whereas with their AGPs, I guess it is about the same, kind of 50-50, where some of them completely bury it. You would have no idea, during the day wearing suits, short hair, whatever, had no idea. But then, um, oh, there was a podcast I was listening, Maiden, Matriarch, Mother, whatever. It's like this conservative Christian podcast, but it's quite good. And she was talking to a trans widow. And so, yeah, her husband was, you know, I think he was a lawyer, so yeah, wearing the suit and all that. But then she looked back in hindsight and went, but the kinds of shoes he was wearing or the kinds of colors, it was sort of like he could change a few pieces then and make it feminine. And she realized, yeah, he was doing that where he would have other items that he would mix and match to make his outfit feminine. Um, so yeah, now that women can just be butch, and that is just it's confusing because sometimes I see a woman and she's really hot and I go, oh man, definitely butch, right? She's definitely gay. No, she's butch, but she's not gay. Damn it, god damn it. It's hard to tell these days.
Yeah. Well, I mean, she could be an AAP,
Mm.
but you know,
Yeah, because it flies under the radar. The autogynephiles can't fly under the radar for the most part.
no, it's
Although
so
I do.
obvious.
Yeah, there was a guy on the train, this small Asian man wearing a business suit. So from the waist up, looked normal. Then he had the skirt. Thankfully, it wasn't a short skirt, but it was, like a business skirt. And these big fuck me platform fetish heels. And we all would everyone on the train didn't say anything. We were just like, and he's kind of tottering along, trying to balance on these things. He's got this little briefcase. And I'm like, what is this dude about? It was great. I think I got a photo of him. But yeah, it was just good on you, mate. You know what you're into, and you're not gonna let your 9 to 5 get in the way of that.
Yeah. The AGPs definitely have a reputation for going overboard with
Yeah, and that's what I've
yeah.
noticed is that I can tell if it's a fetish because they either dress like little children or prostitutes, where it's just very over the top. I do know some trans women where it's just fairly conservative, just wearing some ballet flats and women's clothes, but nothing extravagant. But the other ones, yeah, no, it's just a drag queen, basically.
Yeah. Well, and it also can sort of change over the lifetime where at first it'll be more overtly fetishistic, but as they settle into it over time, they sort of dial it back until eventually it
Yeah,
becomes presentable.
I guess it's because women's clothing inherently is sexual. I think there's always an erotic aspect to women's clothing, and it's the goal is to look pretty and cute and appealing, whereas men's clothing, it's never really marketed that way. Men's clothing, if anything, is marketed for power. It's suits or it's leather jackets or it's very structured, hard things. It's never soft and sensual. And so, yeah, that's why I like wearing military clothing or biker clothing. I guess that's why a lot of butch lesbians do that, because those are clothes that are practical, they're tactical, and
Yeah, you search history in Amazon. Is it just like tactical for everything?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of, well, not that I use Amazon, but yes, I mean, I go to military swap meets. And that's the thing too. So I'm wondering about the interests that other AAPs have. So, I go to vintage car shows. I have a lot of male friends. I don't have a lot of female friends. It's very hard to find women with similar interests to myself. And I go to the comic convention, so that's a bit mixed gender. But yeah, love my cars, love going to military swap meets and all that sort of stuff. And I would like to be more outdoorsy, but I don't get the opportunity, camping and hunting and all of that. And I don't know if because other AAPs, it tends to be more the Fujoshi thing where they just love pretty boy anime characters.
Right. Um, yeah, where it's about sort of socially being a man and also the male eroticism. But it
Mm,
sounds like you have a deeper desire to be
mm.
masculine than a lot of the Fujoshis do.
Yeah, it is a 24/7 thing, so it's not just in the bedroom for me, it is just, well, I would like to take on that role, um, and in a relationship, be the man in the relationship, and, not that I definitely don't like that kinda 1950s dynamic of, yeah, the husband goes out to work and the woman stays home. I would like that equality at least, that I would have a partner, a wife who has a life of her own and ambitions and all of that. But yeah, I don't know. I do like the idea of being the protective one or the having that dynamic. I don't know. It's just something I'm drawn to.
Yeah, it's it makes sense to me. That's sort of the classic heterosexual dynamic, but with the
Mm.
modern egalitarian sentiments of
Yeah, yeah, I guess so. I hate asking for help. And I mean, I've had so many disasters happen in the past couple of years, and no, I mean, I'm very glad to have friends who help. But it's just, yeah, I always beat myself up over, oh, I should be able to handle it myself. I hate asking for help. I hate showing vulnerability and all that. So I do have those maybe toxic masculine traits. Um, where yeah, I hate being seen as a woman or yeah, again, horribly, I have this inherent association of female equals weak. And yeah, I need to untangle this. I'm getting better at it. And I guess bodybuilding is one of those ways that I balance it out. And I'm surrounded by other women who are doing the same thing. So I guess that brings me to a different topic. But yeah, how do you manage it? And for me, bodybuilding is a main one. And I'm surprised other either trans boys or AAPs don't do that.
yeah, I think it's because I mean, it takes a lot of dedicated work, as you know.
Yeah.
Um, like I was pretty jacked before I started writing my book.
Hmm.
Um, and it took a lot of work to get that way.
Hmm.
And most people do not have the consistent dedication to be
True.
able to put on muscle because you have to work out regularly with sufficient intensity. You have to eat enough food of the right kind of food, and you have to sleep
Mm.
enough. And it's
Yes.
hard to fit all that in.
Oh yeah, and because I traveled last week, then I had food poisoning. I'm down to. I always have this thing of I got to be above 60 kilos, at least say above 60. And so I was sitting about 65 for a while, and I was happy with that. But no, now I'm down to about 58. I think maybe I've put a little back on, but yeah, I was just so devastated. I was fixated. I feel disgusting. I'm so small. Oh yeah. So I see where yeah, my size is very much a factor in having a sense of control or making me feel more masculine. Uh, Feeling small is just I hate it. I really do.
Yeah, that's part of the difficult thing about autoheterosexuality is because of sexual dimorphism, it always makes you want to be the thing you're not in all
Mm.
likelihood,
Yeah, there
because
is
most
no
people
way.
yeah.
The thing I see in my head will never be possible, but yeah, at least I have the maturity now to think, okay, well, here, how do we find a balance? How do I make that happen? Whereas, yeah, the whole trans thing was such a lie. I really had a very distorted, impossible view of what was achievable. But then you live under that delusion long enough, and you go, no, I'm manly. I'm totally a man. No one could tell that I'm trans. Everyone could tell I was trans. I just didn't say anything.
Well, I mean, to be fair, you've also mentioned how there's times now where people think you're a man.
Yeah.
So,
So
so you're
now I'm in the middle.
passing without being on testosterone
I know.
anymore.
The weirdest thing was this is a couple of years ago, I was dressed very feminine, long hair, full face of makeup, wearing a skirt and heels, and I was at the shops at the mall, and this little girl came up to me and said, "Excuse me, are you a boy?" And so, how? What? How? I don't know how to respond. No, no. I was very surprised. And I even I thought, do I say anything to the parents? I went, oh, hey, does she do that to everyone? Oh, no. Oh, I don't know. Maybe the child could see my soul. She could see into my soul, so she knew.
Yeah. I've had kids ask me that before, and whenever what I tell them is that, like, I just say, "I'm a boy that wishes he was a girl," so that I'm
Yeah.
not lying to them.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah.
and I hopefully that's, like, the least confusing
Yeah.
way to
Yeah.
explain it
I
to
wish
them.
I was. That's an easy response. Yeah.
Yeah. Um,
But it's interesting that I never correct people on either pronouns or unless it's annoying me. So the entire time they just keep saying he, sir, yeah, or it's medically relevant, or I was talking to a medico-legal psychologist, I think, and he thought because I said I transitioned, and he thought that I was a trans woman. And going, okay, no, I really, for medical and legal purposes, I really need you to understand that is not the case. Otherwise, you're going to make uh this whole case drag on out for a reason it didn't have to. But generally, I don't. But it's interesting that I've had some people say, "Oh, you're 100% a woman." I don't know how anyone could ever look at you as anything other than a woman. You stand like your body language is like a woman. All of that. Okay. But then other ones say, "Yeah, you're pretty butch. You're pretty masculine. I mean, I can tell you're a woman, but I had to think about it." Okay, interesting.
yeah, I feel like the people that at this point, if they, like, tell you that, like, they can't see anything else besides a woman, that they're, like, just trying to be nice or
I'm
something.
wondering, yeah. Um, so I don't know. I'll never know the truth. But yeah, I've had some. Well, the YouTube comments I think are closer to reality. If you seem 100% like a man, or you're totally a man, or they think I'm a trans woman. Some of them will attack me as a trans woman, saying, "Oh, you'll always be a man." Like, oh, thank you.
Yeah, the most validating kind of hate.
I
Yeah,
know they're hating on. They think they're hating on me. They're complimenting me.
yeah. How did you ever experience uh gender euphoria?
Oh, for sure. There's always that honeymoon period of that first year of transitioning, and yeah, you're high on testosterone, and I was building all this muscle and putting on all this weight, and it was also I feel this rebellion against my mother because yeah, she would control what I eat and fixate on my weight and just try to keep me as small as possible, and yeah, then testosterone was this freedom, this absolute freedom, and but then I ended up putting on a lot of fat as well because it's just my hormones were a mess, and I was constantly hungry, and I wasn't eating the right things. I didn't know what I was doing. So I was a bit fat for a little while there, and I didn't mind. I have this weird I've still got this weird issue with that now. I didn't know how to articulate until I read that, The Body Keeps the Score, which is about trauma. But in it, they have a chapter about, binge eating. Even though I've never had an eating disorder, it was just my hormones that was causing the problem. But they're talking to these people with binge eating disorders, and the men found that they felt more comfortable being bigger because, I mean, they started it because in high school they were being bullied, so then they put on weight, and then it was harder for them to be pushed around. And the women usually had a history of sexual assault, and so when they were overweight, when they were obese, men left them alone. And so you found them rebounding so many times. They would lose all this weight, and then they get all these compliments and attention, and then especially the women would go, "Oh no, I'm gonna go back to the way I was and put all the weight back on." And And I've never done that, but I definitely found when I was putting on all that weight, I was aware that I was doing it and I didn't look good, but there was this weird feeling of, but I'm free. Finally, people aren't just looking at me as pretty. I'm a human being. I'm not just this sex object. I'm not. They're not condescending anymore. I mean, I'm a man. I'm a fat man, but hey, at least I'm not treated as this dehumanized little girl. And that was just in a weird way a form of rebellion. This self harming version of rebellion. Yeah.
Well, yeah, it might be self-harming in some respects, but like you said, you're also satisfied with the fact that you're bigger now,
Mm.
right?
Yeah, so I mean, at least now, if I'm doing carnivore and 1 meal a day, so it's all lean muscle mass, which means gaining that weight is a lot slower. But yeah, um, there's this fixation on size that has just always been there. Whether it were being, initially I was the tallest kid in my class, so it was I wanted to be as tall as possible, and then just building the muscle or even just putting on body fat was just enough. It was just I have to be bigger. Is this weird fixation I have?
Yeah, I was always small growing up. I had a really
Mm,
late puberty, so it's even though I'm pretty enormous now, like I I can relate to feeling like yeah, like you weren't living up to the gender expectations.
yeah, I wonder if with the autogynophiles, do they fixate on being as small as possible, and do they
Some of
try to
them
lose
do,
weight? And
and they have
yeah,
eating disorders because of it, because
mm,
they don't want to eat a lot.
yeah,
Because so yeah, I've definitely seen quite a few of them that they have an amount of muscle and body fat where it's likely an eating disorder,
mm.
you know.
Yeah, it's very hard to go either way. I mean, if you are skinnier, at least it does make you look more androgynous. But yeah, so in my case, if I put on more weight, and that's what I noticed when I transitioned, at least with the testosterone, it was distributing the fat to the midsection rather than the hips, but still, because of my bone structure, putting on that mass still kind of gave me a more feminine shape anyway. So it's just, yeah, there's no winning. You can't fight your skeleton.
Right. Yeah, it's hard to battle the skeleton in terms of
Mm,
like trying to achieve a cross-gender aesthetic. Um, that's I mean, for me personally, it would be absolutely hopeless for me because I'm 6'4". I have very wide shoulders. Like
mm,
I have an excellent male skeleton. And so it would
mm,
just be such an uphill battle to
mm.
try to almost look like a woman, you know?
Yeah.
It's like, there's just no hope. So
Yeah, because I have a friend or former
yeah.
friend, I don't know, he's probably blocked me out because he's pro transitioning children. He was raised in a very conservative Christian household, and well, when we first met, we talked about cosplay, and he was always talking about Star Wars. I'm not big into Star Wars, but whatever. I liked working on costumes with him. Although when I first met him, he was still living with his parents, and his childhood bedroom looked basically unchanged from childhood. He still had the little wood block names on his door. And, okay, interesting. He's got pictures of Ricky Martin and all of that on his wall, and going, "What is this guy about? Interesting." And then a few years down the track, he started cosplaying as female characters. Okay. And then he came out as trans, and then it was just that was all he talked about. But he's very beautiful. He's a very beautiful boy. And but that V shape, broad shoulders is a beautiful male body. And so I kind of look at someone like that and go, he should do what I'm doing, where you can be androgynous. You make the most of the form you have instead of trying to fight it and have all these horrible surgeries and ruin your sex life and everything forever, which he's keen on doing. But yeah, I mean, he's a very pretty boy, and I think I'd do all right as a butch woman. So that's really sadly, reality is what it is, and you kind of have to just find your middle ground.
Yeah, it's hard when you got that Dorito shaped upper body to like.
I wish I did.
Yeah, I mean,
That's why I never do. I very rarely do leg day. I basically do leg just so I'm still building muscle there and what have you. Especially because after the car accident, one of my legs was injured. So therapy wise, it's good. But mostly it's all upper body, and it is working. I'm building that mass, but right now it's a 50-50. My shoulders to my hips is kind of 50-50 to really build the upper body. There's going to be years of dedication.
yeah. Are you trying to get your lats super jacked to?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah,
Because that's the
like
key,
like
I think.
right. Yeah, are you doing like wide grip overhand pull-ups to get those or like?
Yeah, and it's frustrating. The upper body strength is just not there. I can lift so much with my lower body. My upper body is just like 3. I can do 3, maybe. Yeah, no matter what I do. But yeah, and then the chest cleavage. I really want that. I'm working on it. It's getting there. But yeah, there is muscle building around that area. When it comes to my breasts, I've never really cared one way or the other. They're quite small that they're not in the way. If I wore a bra, I could push them up. I don't even own bras at this point. But yeah, when I first detransitioned, I was so fixated on my breasts in terms of because they were very flat because they lose all the not the well the breast tissue stays, but the
They
fat.
lose the plumpness though.
Yeah. So they were so
Yeah.
flat, and so I was wearing push-up bras. But then I went through these false pregnancies because I stopped birth control and testosterone at the same time. So suddenly, female hormones are flooding, and then I got these false pregnancies to lactating boobs. I had very big boobs, and it was what's the thing is I felt very feminine for that. I guess that first year or two after detransitioning, my hormones were very feminine, so I felt very connected with my body, and I was dressing the way that it didn't feel incongruous. Being feminine, it's fine. But yeah, then my hormones changed again and again, and so yeah, it has been this constant shifting identity. But I do realize, wow, my sense of self, and I think that's anyone's sense of self is very much connected to their hormones. And so now where I'm at is, yeah, feeling quite masculine, but that doesn't seem dependent on my menstrual cycle or anything. It has settled down because it used to be a huge journey I went on every menstrual cycle where very feminine during the ovulation period, then the menstrual cycle, the period, that was very masculine because that's when the testosterone is higher. So I'd have this complete flip every month. But now it's just kind of settled down, and yeah, for the past year or so, it's just masculine.
Right. So yeah, it seems like your male side has kind of consolidated and become
Mm.
like a steady part, perhaps even dominant within
Mm.
your sort of identity.
Yeah, it really has, and I definitely think separating from my mother makes a huge difference. Where when I'm under her influence, we're spending time together because I dress more and more like her and all of that, and I don't know why she has that effect on me, but yeah, the further I get from her, the more me I become.
Yeah. Have you talked to anyone in real life about autoandrophilia or like come out as that? And if so, like how did it go?
Yeah, I have. I talk about my videos, but talk to friends about it, and I talk to Parliament about it, and no one seems to really know how to respond. And I think because in my case, as a detransitioner, it comes up in the context of the whole trans debate. So it always gets pushed to the side as, okay, that's interesting and weird, and I would like to talk about it, but we have to talk about the trans kids and how do we protect them. So no one's ever really delved into it or wants to know how it works. Um, Although there's also another aspect of, I think they hear the name and they assume they get it. Oh, okay, so it's like a fetish. Okay, whatever. They never really want to get into the nitty gritty of it.
Yeah, it's they're really overlooking a lot of potential for helping people
Mm.
with gender distress by like ignoring autoandrophilia and autogynephilia.
Yeah, and I think maybe it's just because it is well, it's ostensibly a sexual thing, so they just go, "Oh, well, we don't wanna go there, we don't wanna talk about it," or acknowledging that there is a sexual aspect to this gender dysphoria, this trans dysphoria, somehow makes it less legitimate, which it doesn't, but that's how they feel.
Right. Yeah, I think the way I see it is it sort of legitimizes the people that actually have genuine gender dysphoria because it's coming from an aspect of themselves that was likely the product of inborn traits, and
Mm,
while like their life experience and society may influence how that trait manifests,
mm,
it's still, I think, an essential part of them.
yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, it's the same with homosexuality, it's not just a sexual thing, and, I mean, yeah, looking at pride now, you'd think it's just all a fetishy, kinky thing. But yeah, I mean, if you're gay, that is just it's an innate part of who you are. Oh, my battery's running low. Can I run off and go get it? My battery, my charger, or should I?
Yeah, okay. Um yeah, how has knowing about autoandrophilia been useful for you?
Well, it really put everything into context where instead I was dissociating and making this male identity for myself, and I still struggle with dissociation to this day, where I just kind of I felt this ever since I was a little kid, and I never knew what it was, where I felt wrong in my body, and I would have to imagine myself as somebody else. I would always and maybe that's why I'm drawn to costumes and, I love cosplaying a snake and all of that, and that's where I feel the most myself. And, yeah, even as a kid well, back then, it was always, the Venom symbiote. I used to have this fixation with that the Venom symbiote because I thought, yeah, it would be nice if I could just totally hide myself under this shape-shifting entity and become this very big masculine character. I was always fascinated by that. And yeah, I'm realizing now, obviously, with the context and hindsight, oh, okay, that's why I felt that way. And so yeah, I went many years without fully understanding myself, and even when you transition, they say, "Oh, you're living your truth." No, I mean, it's an aspect of my truth. It would take many, many years. I'm 32 years old now, and I'm finally understanding. There's probably other things, but yeah, the major things that were making me feel wrong and different and not like the other girls.
Yeah. Well, I mean, at this point, you're definitely not like the other, the other girls.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um,
And yeah, I wish there was more AAPs out there who are talking about and if but I've yet to see one I really relate to. I mean, there's elements, but we all seem quite different, and the Fujoshi type seems to be the most dominant.
right. Yeah. I do think though there's just incredible variation within the autoheterosexual population because
Mm,
everyone's gonna have their own innate amount of gender nonconformity, and then on top of that, everyone's gonna have their own preferred type of erotic target, like the sort of thing that they find the most attractive. So,
mhm.
and then that will influence how their identity develops over time. And there's also
Yeah.
just so many aspects of the orientation you can have, like where some people just care about the body or clothes or the identity, and they
Yeah.
yeah. So there's just so much variation.
Yeah, you just remind me of something. There's this subset of trans boys or soft boys or whatever they call themselves, where they want to be boys, but then they want to remove their breasts, but they want to wear dresses and makeup and all that, and they love the JoJo's Bizarre Adventure and that kind of stuff, where it's this very effeminate male that they're drawn to, and I am wondering if they are AAPs and what that is. That to them they want a man's body, but that man's body wearing feminine clothing. It's interesting.
Yeah, I think it's probably more relatable to them.
Mm.
You know, to like their female side at least, that to think of being feminine and having on that clothing.
Yeah, so it's almost like they're an AAP AGP? Is that
I mean, I have seen quite a few instances on Reddit of um like FTMs posting about like seemingly having autogynephilia in the sense of getting turned on by the fact that they have breasts or a vagina, and it's it's kind of strange. I sort of just the way
it's
I
like
interpret,
meta attraction.
yeah, I kind of interpret it as generally females having a less rigid sort of erotic target preference, where
Mm,
you know they're more likely to be bisexual and to maybe look past looks with a partner and
mm,
care more about the relationship. And so it wouldn't surprise me if that sort of flexibility with what they found was most attractive in a mate, if that was
mm,
turned inward, that it would also give them a sort of flexibility in how they express their
mm.
autosexuality. And
Yeah, I'm wondering when for some auto-heterosexuals, it is just it stays in the bedroom, that is it. They like to dress up a certain way in that context, but then they just sort of put it to one side, and then they get on with their lives. But yeah, for some of us, it's sort of this all-encompassing thing of I always feel like I'm fighting this uphill battle or fighting in a man's world where, to compete against them and keep up with them. Whereas, yeah, for a lot of AAPs, it just seems to be they like to imagine it or, what it's like to have a penis or just appear masculine or dress more masculine, but it doesn't seem to be as all encompassing. So I don't know why it seems to just be compartmentalized for some and not for others.
yeah, I usually attribute the compart like I think that someone that has it stronger is going to be more likely to have trouble compartmentalizing it.
Hmm.
Um, and
Yeah. Well,
yeah,
but I did it for years, but then I was miserable and I didn't even know why. So yeah, I guess the dissociation, the compartmentalization was easier before I knew what this was, where I just went, well, I'm a girl, so I have to dress this way and I have to behave this way, and I should feel flattered when men talk to me this way. And so, yeah, you can sort of talk yourself into it if you don't really understand why it all feels wrong. Oh, well, I just have a weird feeling. Okay, whatever. It doesn't matter. I don't have a name for it. But yeah, once I knew what autoandrophilia was, I just went, oh, oh yeah, no, no, I'm not going back. Now I know what this is. I'm going to embrace it, and the more I do, the happier I am. And at work, I will put on lipstick. I don't tend to put on much makeup. I do like putting lipstick on mostly just because my lips are so damn dry. I do wear earrings, nothing ostentatious, very small things. But I'm wearing a green jumpsuit, kind of military looking style, um, and military combat boots. So, and then and a little scarf. So it's kind of yeah, it's androgynous. It's a soft butch kind of thing. So, and that's yeah, I'm very happy. That's my uniform that I've just made for myself. So okay, I'm not totally masculine when it's my choice. I'm not always going 100% masculine. So, okay, there is some femininity there. It's not that I'm totally in denial. I can find a balance between the two or even can find enjoyment between the two. But when I'm forced into the feminine extreme is when I start to really disconnect and dissociate. And I've also found just naturally gravitating towards if I can do the male option, I will. So my friends and I went to see the Barbie movie, and it was sort of a costume screening. So we all got dressed up, and I decided to just be Malibu Ken. Obviously, I don't want to be Barbie.
right,
That's not
yeah.
fun. Yeah, I immediately gravitate towards that, and I know a lot of butch women, lesbians do that, whereas they will be the male version of something.
Mhm. Um, Yeah, I'm thinking that there's probably just like one question left on my list I have to ask you. Is there anything else that you felt like you want to bring up?
Um, well, I mean, generally speaking, I just want more research done on this and more discussion on autoandrophilia specifically to get a better picture of who who feels this way, what kind of person. So yeah, maybe it is just you have your butch lesbians and you have the fujoshi. Maybe that is just there are two kinds, but I don't know. I've observed a lot more varieties, and there's just no scientific or academic literature on it.
Yeah, it's disappointing. I really want there to be more. Doing I'm working on a paper related to female autosexuality. I'll obviously be, if it actually finally gets published, I'll make sure everyone knows about it. But
Hmm.
yeah, I really want the sexologists to start taking the the idea of female autoandrophilia seriously, because as far as I can tell, the biggest resistance to them doing that seems to be the idea that autogynephilia is a paraphilia, but females don't get paraphilias, so therefore females won't have autoandrophilia.
Yeah, and yeah, I had that mechanophilia yeah, that sort of yeah, it was a fetish for a while there. Like just cropped out of nowhere. And so, well, that's the other reason why they generally don't like to study women's sexuality or health in general, is because of the menstrual cycle. And then, me having taken testosterone and the birth control, and then stopping them at the same time. And then I had all these weird fetishes, desires, all of that. I mean, how do you quantify and monitor and track all of that? And it's just impossible. So that's why men get all the attention in medicine.
But they're easier to measure. Yeah.
Mm.
It, so it makes sense that scientists gravitate towards the group that will be more consistent and easier to measure. But
Yeah. And I
yeah,
think when it came to my desires or the way I saw myself changing so drastically across the menstrual cycle, and now it's sort of flattened out. I'm wondering if it's just I was very sensitive, so I'm feeling these things and really just being swayed by those feelings. Whereas now it's just sort of I can better manage them. I understand what's going on. I have that context. Whereas yeah, back then it's just I'm riding this roller coaster. I don't know where it's going.
right. Because until you understand that what's going on is autoandrophilia, it'll just be like, why do I really want to be a man all of a sudden, and why does it
Mm,
bother me to be female? And then why did that feeling just go away for a week, and then
mm,
why is it back? And
yeah. Yeah, very rarely do I feel totally comfortable as a woman. And yeah, going back to the video game example of yeah, I mean, I can play as a female character, and it helps me to feel a bit more integrated. I don't know if there is a way, conversion therapy for auto heterosexuality. Is there a way for me to just go, no, you're in a female body, it's good, it's great. It's just yeah, there's always going to be that part of me. It's like, well, but I could play as a male character, and I like doing that. It's always gonna be a part of me that's like that.
yeah, the temptation's going to be there for sure.
Mm.
And yes, I guess it makes sense to me that you're trying, like, being a little cautious now about which video game characters you choose because of the
Yeah.
potential consequences.
Yeah, it really does have an impact, and also the media I consume, and yeah, if you're watching, well, especially a lot of these girls I noticed, they're just obsessed over TV shows that are all, or manga or whatever it is. It's all men, so Metal Gear, for example, it is purely men. There women have very minor roles in those games. And I don't know what the kids are into right now, but generally speaking, it looks like they're very male-dominated shows. The female characters are either minor or they don't get a lot of focus in any kind of way.
Yeah, but I could definitely see how that could be an influence for if someone is sort of predisposed to being autoandrophilic, it
Mm.
being much more tempting to relate to the male characters and much easier to do so.
Yeah, and well, I guess that so auto heterosexuality and heterosexuality. So, and this was for my latest video, which was about the fan fiction. I looked up how much fan fiction the so Baldur's Gate. very 50-50, equal split, great female characters, great male characters. But you go on fanfiction.net or Archive of Our Own, the male characters, by and large, have the most amount of stories written about them. Because I think, well, it's mostly being written by girls, and it's mostly written by straight girls. And girls just aren't that interested in their own kind, I guess. They're not interested in those female characters. Because a lot of fan fiction now is inherently erotic. So if you're straight, you're going to write about the male character.
Right. Ideally, two of them, and then maybe one of them being sort of the submissive one that you like
Oh, I
self-insert
hate
into.
that. Yeah. There's always got to be a sub and a dom, and I like these characters, and go, no, they're not like that. Why? Oh god.
Right. You're like, this is not canon. Like,
Yes, I could write this better. Yeah, I don't. If fan fiction wasn't so inherently erotic, I wonder, would it have to be like that? Whereas now, yeah, it's all male worship, all the way down. It's male worship. Tumblr, it's male worship. When I was on there, it was that Super Wholocks or Supernatural Doctor Who Sherlock. Do the women have much to do in those shows? Are they the titular characters? No. So that's why they're all written about the men.
right. And the supernatural one, as far as I know, was insanely popular in terms of for shipping.
Oh, yeah. It is. I mean, to the point that the shipping was kind of canonical, or at least nodded at in the show itself.
Right. And didn't the actors also get frustrated with with how much people were wanting that to be a thing?
Oh god, yeah. Especially, yeah, it was Dean and Castiel where they were being very insistent. The fans were very demanding. But yeah, it's fascinating to me seeing how looking at the trans thing, or looking at fandoms, or looking at pornography, or anything, the way men see women and the way women see men, it fascinates me endlessly. And then when you look at the autoheterosexuals and their view, or what they value in the female or the masculine experience, what they're coveting.
Yeah, there's so much coveting happening with the with the auto heterosexuals. Um,
Yeah, well, I think for the autogynophiles, the aspect they seem to fixate most is that the delicate, the soft, the feminine, all the things that they just don't get from their usual masculine life. And then, yeah, conversely, I think, yeah, for me, what's drawing me to the male side is that it is about just proving how hard and tough you are, and showing that strength and having that strength valued. I think that was the other thing. Maybe that's my daddy issues. I never had a close relationship with my dad. Always wanted to. Always wanted to do the masculine things. And yeah, I guess wanting that to this day, I always want that male approval. It doesn't matter so much to me. I'm never looking for maternal approval or approval from women. It is very much, I'm trying to prove myself to the men and be seen as an equal. Which is where a character like Ciri in The Witcher is actually very relatable, because she is this girl who's trying so hard to make it in a man's world, and she's frustrated that she can't. And I was like, yeah, girl, I feel you.
yeah. Do you like Geralt in that show? Like just how
Yes, and
masculine he is?
yeah, one of my very commonly recurring erotic fantasies is, yeah, I do. Yeah, I like to imagine myself as Geralt, and I'm more of a Trish guy myself rather than Yennefer, but yeah, I do like imagining those scenarios.
Yeah, I remember some my roommates were watching it for a bit, and it's like, yeah, he's so manly.
He's so manly. I'll never be that manly.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, no, I mean, I couldn't even be that manly,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
it,
Henry Cavill is just the most perfect man, most perfect male specimen. And yeah, I've never looked at him in a romantic or sexual. I've never had that kind of fantasy going, maybe. It's like, no, I want to be him. I must become him.
right, like, wouldn't it be so hot to be him?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's like, if I had that body, what would I do with that body? So there's a lot of body swap fantasies that I've had. And it's just like, yeah, if you have that body for 24 hours, I mean, no, yeah.
Yeah, you'd probably like do a lot of sex stuff and then also hit the gym and lift record
Yeah.
numbers of weights. And
Yeah. Oh
yeah.
man. Gotta change my pants now. That was yeah, someone did interview me about so this was on the Desexing Society podcast. I will give that a shout. It's very good. It's an Australian podcast
Oh
about
yeah, she had me
yeah,
on.
yeah, the medical and political situation in Australia. And oh, so you must be on season 2. Anyway, we'll see. But yeah, uh she was asking me, so okay, they were doing this study on the autogynophiles, and when they were actually doing a test on the blood flow on the genitals of these men when they were reading out this script of, oh, you imagine putting on the silk stockings and putting on your makeup and all that, you know, the routine. And so the men were getting a little excited. For me, yeah, the idea of, oh, you know, you put on your army fatigues and your camo boots and your combat boots and the camo and all that, and now your big boss is like, yeah, no, that's not quite it. It's not about what I'm wearing. And I think for the autogynophiles, it's very much about the cosmetic and the what
appearance.
the appearance, yeah, and what those clothes feel like and what they look like and what it feels like to walk in heels and all. Yeah, no, because for me, I'm wearing military androgynous stuff every day, so there's no erotic excitement there. It is very much fixated on the body, you know, having the big chest, broad shoulders, a penis, the height difference, all of that is very appealing to me. So it's more about the
I mean, that's still
biological.
visual, to be fair.
It is visual, but it seems to be
Yeah.
more based on the biological, because women are allowed to dress 100% like a man, head to toe, cut your
Right.
hair that short. So for me, there was never that excitement because it's how I'm always dressed. And when I was walking to Parliament, I was wearing a suit. It was a velvet suit jacket, but still, you know, wearing a suit, wearing a tie. I went to a private Catholic school. Well, I wore a suit and tie every day at school. I had to. So, you know, I don't have that same connection there. Whereas a man in his general waking public life, he's not wearing bras. He's not wearing stockings and panties and skirts. That is just not part of the wardrobe.
Right. And I do think you're right that I have noticed that pattern that autoandrophiles don't seem to care about the clothing as much,
Mm.
or like if they do care about the clothing they wear, it's never part of eroticism for them, or like less likely to be part of eroticism.
Yeah,
Um,
although, especially when I'm looking at the sexy butch lesbians on the internet, yeah, the ones that really do it for me, it's like, oh, she's got the tank top, or she's wearing the firefighter outfit, or yeah. So there are masculine garments that I see on other women that I find appealing. So when I see another girl dressed butch and wearing the leather jacket and doing all that, or you know, women in uniform, you know, I will see female cops around like, "Ooh, hello." You know, very
yeah, I mean,
very, very
I like that
interesting.
too. It's good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Women in uniform. Ooh, they look so cold. Yeah, so, yeah, I like that on other women, but on myself, it doesn't seem to matter one way or the other. Don't know what that means.
Right. Yeah. It's. I kind of feel like there's a difference here where autogynophiles they care more about the appearance, and women or the autoandrophiles care more about like doing man things.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm wondering how many of them have those masculine hobbies. 'Cause that I don't think, and I don't think any of your previous guests, brought it up, but yeah, how many of them do find some kind of validation in getting involved in a sport or doing something outdoorsy or, you know, anything like that? And, you know, I do wanna join the ADF just as, Army Reserve, and I'm going, "Is that an ADF? Is that an AAP thing?" My ADF desires
Almost
are
certainly.
AAP thing. Yeah. 'Cause, I was reading an article. Did I? Oh, I've got it somewhere. There's an article about there's a huge correlation between transsexuals and army service, and it's either, well, see, the trans community frames, and maybe this might be my next video, the military transgender pipeline, but it seems to be that a lot of these, mostly men, join the army as a way of repressing their feminine urges, and it was their way of kind of conversion therapy. That's how the trans community frames it. That's how
No,
they're
that's a
trying to
real
frame it.
thing. The
Yeah,
doubling
yeah.
down on masculinity to
The
repress is
doubling
a
down.
real
Yeah.
thing.
Now, well, there's very few stories on military women in general, but yeah, especially not autoandrophile story. I don't think there's any out there. But yeah, I'm wondering if there are any women like that who end up getting involved in the police force or the army or any of those very inherently masculine roles because they want to be able to immerse themselves and live out that masculine life.
Yeah, to basically be able to hang as one of the men, how like rewarding that would be.
Yeah. Which is probably why I do have a lot of male friends, and I love being in those male circles and getting their approval. It's definitely, yeah. Again, we've talked about this a few times that, yeah, having the understanding of what autoheterosexuality is and how pervasive it is in every aspect of your life, not just your sexuality, socially, your hobbies, your interests, everything.
Yeah, it's just understanding the global nature of it within
Mm.
yourself. Um, it's really important for more people to understand that. And I do
Yeah,
think
I
that
think it's like
hobbies
being
are a
gay.
great
Yeah.
way.
Yeah.
Like hobbies are a great way to integrate it. Um,
Mm.
it's I know that I developed a hobby that is something that mostly females do, and I found that very rewarding.
Yeah, the hula
Um,
hooping?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that subculture, the hoopers, they're like
Mm.
90% female, and then whatever
Yeah.
males there are either gay or trans generally.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I do find that uh, yeah, I mean, it is like being gay, where gay men will, they'll love the Disney or they'll be into theater, musicals, all of that. They have this kind of predictable fields of interest, and then women have the same thing. Lesbians tend to, yeah, like particularly masculine things. So being an auto heterosexual, I'm wondering, is just the same thing. It is just a kind of different sexuality. I'm losing the ability to talk. Different kind of sexuality, and yeah, that's all encompassing for your personality, your interests. It's just a part of who you are.
yeah, absolutely. Um, I was thinking to, I guess, like a question I usually like to close out on is
Hmm.
like for the autoandrophiles that are listening, what would you want them to know?
Um, hmm. Well, strangely, that yeah, transitioning, taking testosterone helped, although it's kind of Russian roulette, so I couldn't recommend it. But yeah, a degree of transitioning was beneficial to make some aspects of my body and my voice match what I see inside. Also, that it can be managed in other ways, bodybuilding, masculine activities. Um, Yeah, just finding a way to balance it. The balance is what I've struggled with for a long time, and now I have it. It makes a huge difference that I don't have that gender dysphoria or that distress so much because I have those outlets and I have a somewhat androgynous physique and what have you.
Yeah, I think that's a really good answer. Basically, that especially mentioning how like transition is kind of a Russian roulette with the
Mhm.
testosterone, but that it does help some people feel like they can like really be in their body and participate in their life in a way that they couldn't before.
Yeah, I'm able to live in a way I never did before, and I'm feeling in my 30s better than ever. But also, I do have permanent problems from the testosterone. I mean, thankfully, my hair came back thicker and curlier. But yeah, I will never be able to eat plants ever again. Probably my gut microbiome and my immune system have changed, so I have to be very careful about
So now you have to
what
eat
I
the manliest
consume.
diet on earth.
I have the manliest diet on earth. Coincidentally, yeah, no plants at all. Fruits and vegetables. That's some girly shit. Fuck that. Uh, yeah. So, yeah, I mean, some women end up losing their hair and, or yeah, gaining a lot of weight, bad skin, permanent immune problems, might have to get a hysterectomy, early menopause. Okay, yes. So yeah, I could never recommend testosterone, but I will admit I was lucky and it wasn't as bad as it could have been, and I like the masculinity that I do have.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming on my channel.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I'm glad you're talking to autoandrophiles. We need more voices out there.
Yeah, I mean, the first one who reached out to say that they were willing to do an interview on my channel was an autoandrophile, and yeah, it seems like y'all are really stepping up to sort of make your presence more known, which is
Mm.
kind of courageous. So that's great.
I'm surprised there hasn't been any negative backlash. A lot of people ask me either talking about being a detransitioner or an autoandrophile, or any of the weird things that I've gone through. Has anyone had a really negative reaction or harassed you? Like, no, surprisingly. Most people just go, "Huh, that's weird." Anyway.
Right, yeah, everyone has too much stuff in their own life to worry about.
Hmm.
And I think in terms of backlash for talking about autoandrophilia, autogynephilia, that it's not going to happen until it gets to, like right now, the mainstream part of the trans movement, they don't want to talk about it, and that even
Hmm.
includes critiquing it. Like they'd rather just not think about it. So
And I don't think it delegitimizes transitioning. They want to act like, oh, trans people, these poor victims that, they're just born in the wrong body. That is the narrative they want to push. When it's no, it's a lot of things. It's a constellation of symptoms and experiences. And sexuality happens to be one of them. Sexuality is not less legitimate. I mean, some people are perverts, yeah, sure. But that doesn't mean that autoheterosexuality is inherently perverse. Um, but yeah, there were some people who they were screeching when you went to the Gen Spec thing. There was a man in a dress, and he was living out
yeah.
his fetish, and I'm just like, yeah, and I don't,
Right,
it's
yeah,
very
the
reductive.
same people that spent years talking about how clothes don't make you another gender and people should be able to dress how they want.
Mm.
I called their bluff on that apparently.
Yeah, yeah. It was interesting seeing them. So they were sort of wrapping themselves in knots, trying to go. Well, okay, but a man can wear a dress, but this one is specifically there because he's an auto gynephile. Oh well, but then we were saying that trans is a sexual thing. So then he is supporting our point that oh yeah, it was hilarious.
It was funny to see the feminist infighting on it.
Mm,
It's it just kind of shows how controversial this subject can be. Because I personally didn't do anything controversial besides
yeah,
just the fact the subject I'm talking about is inherently some people get uncomfortable with it, and I do
but
dress
imagine.
eccentrically.
Yeah, and I was talking to Parliament dressed in a suit and tie, and you would never imagine, especially there aren't not men on social media, but yeah, even the feminists. Imagine the very vocal feminists looking at what I'm wearing, going, "She was dressed as a man. She was living out her fetish." Like, no, it would never happen because
No,
we have inherently sexualized women's clothing. It has nothing to do with the clothes. It's how we, as a society, have framed those clothes.
yeah, that's a good point, and I'm glad you didn't have to put up with people saying that about your velvet uh,
Yeah,
suit.
everyone loved my velvet suit. It was cool.
Yeah, they did not love my velvet dress. Um,
Yeah, and I wonder because the world is inherently patriarchal and misogynist and yada yada and all those words you want to throw at it, that a woman adopting masculine traits or masculine dress is conforming to the correct way of being. She's strengthening herself. She's making herself like one of us men. She's being sensible. She's not like these other girls. She's one of the good ones. Whereas if a man dresses as a woman, oh, there's something wrong with him. Oh, why is he dressing all weak and campy and yeah, there's no negative. There's no positive association. It's all negative association there.
right, to be a man is a step up, and for a man to lower himself by feminizing himself is like a threat to masculinity,
Yep.
and and yeah.
Except there is femboy fishing. I love that. There's a YouTube channel, this guy, he's fishing. He's wearing girls' clothes. It's great.
Oh, he pretends to be a girl, and then, like, once the guys get interested, he does, like, a reveal.
No, he's actually he's actually fishing for actual fish in the river, but he's wearing
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
he's not catfishing. Yeah, no, he's out there catching some fish in a dress. Um,
I
and yet,
respect that.
yeah, and it's just like it's this wonderful balance of comedy, but also normalizing. It's just like it's just I like wearing this stuff, and also I like fishing. Okay, good on you, mate.
Yeah, the gender conformity we need in this world.
Yes. I'm just gonna hang on. Can I even? My fingers are too cold. Like, Camboy fishing. Yep. He has 126,000 subscribers. Yeah, good on him.
Yeah, maybe I should start doing that. See how that goes.
Yeah, and again, there's nothing funny about a woman wearing men's clothing. It's never, and as a costume designer, I really think about these things. Like a man in a dress can be funny, or it can be played serious. We're at that point now where you can do that, but there is never, other than a woman's forced to put on this comically oversized uniform. Oh, we don't have it. That's the smallest size we have. You could do that. That's about as much comedy gold you can get out of men's clothing.
Yeah, well, I'm glad there's more autoandrophiles out there wearing that men's clothing and making it look
Mm,
good.
yes. Yeah, that's the other thing too. So everything I'm wearing here, it looks male, but they're all is a
It looks
women's
so
size.
masculine, dude.
Yeah, thank you.
I mean,
But
the eye patch with like the biker gloves and
hell yeah, so badass. Yeah, I'm living my best big boss life. But yeah, um, all of it is women's clothing. I bought it from women's stores or the women's sizes, the women's cuts. Whereas for if a man wants a dress, if he wants feminine looking clothing, even if it's leggings or something, he has to shop in the women's section. There is no middle ground. So yeah, I think there is this sexism that feminine clothing is degrading. It is only for women. It is lowering yourself. Men can't do that. And yeah, even in this time where we have all this, gender non-binary, whatever, men's clothing is still very conservative and boring and structured.
yeah, it's unfortunate. I guess I'll just have to continue wearing dresses.
Yeah. Too bad you can't sew. See, I can sew, but then I don't really need to make my own clothes because all women's clothing can be androgynous and masculine.
Yeah, no, I'd like to learn to sew at some point,
Mm.
but it's not a priority
Although
right now.
I know because I'm wearing a lot of military stuff or even my military gear, backpacks and stuff, it's all made for men's bodies. So in that context, yes, I've had to alter a lot of things just so that it fits me correctly. But yeah, generally, I don't have too much of an issue.
Yeah. All right. I'm gonna pause the recording here,
Mhm.
or stop it. Thank you
Okay.
for coming on my channel and
Thank you.
being your big boss self.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. I love to see it.
Yeah, it's strangely a fictional character helped me become my true self. And, well, I was on the show Aaron you had Aaron on as well, from
Yeah.
the gender podcast. Yeah, well, initially, we were supposed to go in there and talk about, autoandrophilia, and then it never came up.
Yeah. Well, I'm I'm sure. Yeah, I guess you got a chance to talk about it here at much greater length, and
Yeah, because I think maybe, well, yeah, you get it. You know the questions to ask and where to go with it. Whereas, yeah, I think a lot of people, even those who are autoandrophiles themselves, it's sort of, "Oh, how do we approach it?" And they probably don't have the same amount of academic reading as well to know, okay, top down, how do we approach it?
yeah,